What is up, Pack a Day members? Welcome into our weekly members-only Q&A. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a member. Most importantly, thank you at the moment for saving me from this Bucks game, which is off to a terrible start. The Pacers are shooting like 1,000,000,000% from the field, and the Bucks are not playing basketball well, which is kind of the whole point of the sport. But I digress. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for saving me from that Bucks game. If you're listening to this, you're not a member. That means that it is live post the actual chat itself. If you haven't become a member yet, make sure to check that out. And usually make it live after the fact. But if you want to get involved, ask the questions, etc., you can sign up to become a member and get access to this as well. For those of you who are here live, again, thank you so much. I appreciate it a ton. It is a wonderful time of year. The draft is officially here. I will be able to hopefully get to all of your questions today, as many as possible. Probably for the next hour and a half, or until we exhaust all of our questions. Let's start with John. Happy draft week, Andy. Love the Justice Q&A. For my money, you and Justice talking Packers is probably the best football content, period. I hope he knows how much we all appreciate it. I try not to let him know. Don't want to get his head too big. Don't want to get, no, Justice knows. Tell him all the time. Obviously, I had the opportunity to tell him yesterday. We definitely see a spike in our Tuesday episodes when he is on. It is a joy to talk Packers with him every single time. And yeah, I feel like it's very free-flowing, easygoing, and it's always usually a very nerdy conversation, which I always appreciate as well. And I think it's just a great exchange of ideas. So always great chatting with Justice, and glad that you guys like it as well. Mirko, thanks for the great interview with Evan Williams. How was it for you to talk to him? He seems like a very gentle and humble young man. Yeah, he was great. You never quite know how those are going to go until you kind of talk with them for the first time. You always expect the best, and I expected Evan to be nothing but amazing when I went into that interview. But no, he was fantastic, really easy to talk to. Super nice, just to start things off, before we even started the show. Just again, very easy. Like some people, you can get on and you can tell they are doing this, but they don't want to be there. Like you can just tell, like, oh, all right, let's just get through this sort of thing. And which is fine. Like, I appreciate the fact that they're still willing to take the time to do it. And it's totally, I get it. I understand it. When I go on certain radio shows or certain podcasts, I can't say I'm always 1,000,000% thrilled. Like sometimes, I'd just be like, oh, this would be a nice 30 minutes to have off or whatever, but it's still fun to do. I'm not saying that that's always the case, but every once in a while it happens. He was awesome. You could just tell he was engaged from the moment that he got on the call. And that's always making it so much more easygoing, where when there are people that maybe you can tell are just, going through the motions or just wanting to be done with it. For me, I tend to like speed it up or not want to keep them as long because, you can tell that they don't want to be there. And with Evan, that was just 1,000,000% not the case. That he was excited to be there was, I don't know, maybe that's aggressive, but he was cool with being there. It wasn't a problem for him or anything like that. And it was just a really fun conversation. So that was kind of the cool aspect of it. Assuming the Packers are really interested in T-Mac, do they talk to his former teammate, Jordan Morgan, to get more insights about the player and or person that he is? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't know, how much they would go to Jordan and have that conversation. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. I think they probably trust their scouts in those conversations that they have. Maybe their scouts talk to Jordan along the way. That's a possibility as well. If they were on the fringe of something, like, should we or shouldn't we? Maybe that would be kind of a deciding factor of like, hey, let's get one more opinion in there. But I think the bigger thing, we kind of heard from Dane Brugler today. It seems like the buzz is that Tet's going to go in the top 12 of this draft, or at least early on, I think well before pick 23. Crazier things have happened. You never quite know for sure. Maybe a player falls. There's always unexpected things, but it seems like for now, Tet's going in the top 12, 13, 14 of this draft at the latest. I would not currently expect Tet to be a member of the Green Bay Packers. Would you as a GM rather have Ezraku and Jaden Higgins or Shamar Stewart and Jack Besh? This one's actually pretty easy for me. And I don't think it's particularly close. I love Donovan Ezraku. All right. He's one of my favorite players in this draft. I like Jaden Higgins. I think he is a bit overrated based on some of the RAS scores and things like that. I'll be honest, like the 6'4" wide receiver archetype is not always my favorite. I think he'd be a good player. I think he would add to this receiver room. I would have no disappointments if he were the pick in the second round, but I'm not quite as like, oh my God, this is the guy in the second round. You got to go get him. Do anything you can in your power. I'm like, it would be fine. I would be totally good with it. Shamar Stewart, to me, is a top 12 player in this draft. I would be thrilled if he was there and Green Bay was able to take him at pick 23. I'm not naive to the lack of production by any means. It does give me pause. It does give me some cause for concern. I understand it. I get it. I cannot turn on his tape and not see somebody who is extremely disruptive. Would I like to have seen that be a bigger impact in the box score? Oh, hell yeah. I'll say it once again. Had it been a bigger impact in the box score, there's a 0.0% chance he's available at 23. There already is a chance he might not be available at 23. But if he was racking up 13 sacks a season, we're talking about him as a top 8 pick, maybe top 5 pick in this draft. I just think it's going to translate better to the NFL. I don't think they played him exactly the way that he was supposed to at Texas A&M, or at least the way that would have been most beneficial for his career. Maybe worked for them in their defense, but I think for him individually, the NFL is going to play him in a more traditional, wider, kind of stare, just, out wide and allow to get him a little bit of a head of steam and some momentum going. And then I think it's just going to be elementary from there. I mean, this was one where there are certain players when you turn them on, and if you are just like worried about the production and have not actually went on and watched any of Shamar Stewart, I really recommend going and watching him, because you just like a great box score does not always tell us the story. A bad box score doesn't always necessarily tell us the story either. There's a reason why you cannot just, I love Moneyball. I love the analytics. I love all that. That should be a part of what you're doing, but that it's so much more than just that. As much as, when you watch Moneyball, you get mad at the old scouts of being like, oh, we have to do it our way. That's ridiculous. Like, of course they were idiots in that, situation of like, oh, we just got to do it the old traditional scouting way. If you go the opposite direction and you just do the box score stuff, well, then there's a lost aspect of what you're trying to do in this. The best are the ones that blend the two together and use a version of analytics, but also, really take a look hard at the tape and what type of player you're projected to get. So I love Shamar Stewart. I do think, I forget where I was ultimately going with that piece of the conversation, but he's a very, very talented football player. And I do think it's going to translate better. I can't get to the point of watching the tape and not like immediately being like, this guy's going to be a big time disruptor. The tape is too intriguing. The player is too intriguing. And I think he ends up being a very good player in the NFL. So I love Stewart. And then Besh is one of my favorite players in this draft as well. So I get 2 players that I beyond love in Stewart and Besh. Ezeraku, as much as I love, I will say this, between Ezeraku and Stewart, who are like not total polar opposites, but in a way, you have Ezeraku as all of the production, right? Just every single sack that you want, pressure, everything he's got. Has good athleticism, really good athleticism, but doesn't have the sort of bulk and the power that you would generally look for at the position. Shamar Stewart has really great athleticism and the bulk and the power for the position, but doesn't have the box score, the productivity that you would like. So they're sort of, interesting polar dynamics. As much as I love Ezeraku, I am more worried about Ezeraku's lack of bulk than I'm potentially worried about Shamar Stewart's lack of production. I love both of them. I would be thrilled with either of them, but the tiebreaker for sure for me would be Jack Besh over Jaden Higgins, which would be a no-brainer. So I would actually take Stewart over Ezeraku, although it's close, and I would definitely take Besh over Jaden Higgins. Good question, though. Last year, everyone besides Justice thought the Packers would address corner. Which of the defensive end, defensive tackle, corner, wide receiver, offensive lineman could you see the Packers internally thinking they're all good, even though fans don't? Last year, everyone besides Justice thought the Packers would address corner. Yeah, I mean, Justice was a little bit, I think, less on the need to address corner this past. No, that was this year, was it not? Was it not this year? Maybe it was last year. I don't know. Time is a flat circle and all rolls together for me. Either way, which of defensive end, defensive tackle, corner, wide receiver, offensive lineman could you see the Packers internally thinking they are good enough, even though fans don't? This is a really interesting question, because I think to a large extent, the Packers believe that they are good enough at each of these positions. I legitimately believe, knowing that they're going to get Christian Watson back at some point this year, that with Watson, Reed, Dobbs, Wicks, McCole Hardman, I can't think of the outside wide receiver's name. Bo Melton, and then the undrafted free agent guy I have so many draft names in my head right now that now like my brain is kicking out current Packers, which is very annoying. Malik Heath. Sorry about that. So Malik Heath, I think they feel like they actually have enough receivers. I don't necessarily disagree. I think they would like to get better. Like you would like to get them to get better there. I would like them to get better there, but I think they feel like they have enough playmakers at wide receiver currently. I think at defensive end, you're talking about a group of Rashawn Gary, LVN, Kingsley Nigbare, Brenton Cox, who showed well in limited snaps a season ago. I think they'll feel like they can. Defensive tackle, I'm going to come back to. Corner, they went and got Nate Hobbs. They've got Keyshawn Nixon. They've got obviously Carrington Valentine. Javon Bullard can play in the slot. As of right now, they have Jaire Alexander, although I don't think they're counting him in. I think they feel like they can easily get through games with that starting group. And then offensive line, they have 5 starters plus a top-end backup. They got 6 guys right now and some guys that they've already started to develop, like Jacob Monk, like Kadeem Telfort and Travis Glover. So I don't think that they feel like they are stressed at any of these positions. The 2 caveats to that are I believe that they need a run-stopping defensive tackle to some extent. I think they need to replace TJ Slayton in some way. I think there's a couple different ways that they could go about doing that. It could even be a later pick, but I think that they have to figure out at least one more piece at defensive tackle. I don't think they could go in and feel perfect about where they're at right now. And if you were to lose Kenny in some way right now, you would be really in a tough situation because you would just have Wyatt, Brooks, and Wooden left, and that is clearly not going to get you where you need to go along that defensive front. So I think defensive tackle is one that they actually need to add something to that, probably a run-stopping defensive tackle. And then corner, you need bodies. So it's not necessarily that I think they're going to feel like they need to get a top-tier starting corner, although I think it's well within the realm of possibility early in this draft. I think it's more that they have to fill out the depth of that position after losing Eric Stokes, Robert Rochelle, Corey Ballantyne, those guys. There's a real lack of depth at that position currently. So that I think those are the 2 that they're going to have to do something. But I think all of them would like to, upgrade and get better players. But I would be willing to bet you that Brian and friends are not stressed about any of those positions, maybe as much as Packer fans are. This time last year, we were guessing what Jeff Hafley's defense would look like. Remember you saying DeJean wouldn't fit, but after seeing that de-evolved into would DeJean have been Hafley's dream defensive back? So a couple of things. I actually went back and listened to my big board episode today from last year because I'm going to be doing that big board episode for tomorrow. I just kind of wanted to get like a refresher of exactly what I was, thinking last year and kind of how I went through the process of that. So one of the things I mentioned with DeJean is I didn't think he was a perfect fit for the style of defense that that we sort of assumed that Jeff Hafley wanted. Press man on the outside, and just more, again, single high coverage. I didn't think DeJean was a perfect fit for that. But 2 things. One, I did not see the complete evolution in real time of Jeff Hafley's defense into what it became, and what it became would have been a great fit for Cooper DeJean, no question about it. The other thing that I did very much make mention of, and I know this because I listened to it today, and I remember making mention of it on numerous occasions. The one thing I felt most confident of in Jeff Hafley was the fact that he was going to be able to utilize players to the best of their ability. And I said very specifically, even if he's maybe not a 1A tier perfect player for that scheme, I have zero doubt that Jeff Hafley would find a way to use him in a way that would be very conducive to Cooper DeJean's skill set. So I'm with you in everything. Again, not knowing at the time what that defense was going to evolve into, and also still leaving room for the fact that, like, hey, I trust Jeff Hafley with it. But after seeing what the defense evolved into, would you say DeJean would have been Hafley's dream defensive back? I don't know about dream defensive back, but he certainly would fit very well in where that scheme evolved to at the end of last year. So, these are things that we can go through all the time. Trust me, we're going to hear about Cooper DeJean not being a Packer and the Packers passing on him for ever at this point. Probably, I don't think it's quite going to get to the TJ Watt conversation, but I'm sure that's one that's going to get brought up time after time. Here's what I would tell you. And I think what people miss in this conversation, if Green Bay was going to redo round 1 last year, you know who they would take in round 1? Edgerrin Cooper. That's who they would take. That's the guy that they missed on in round 1 the most. Just so happens they got him later in round 2. That the number 1 miss that they had in the draft in the first round was Edgerrin Cooper. And thankfully they made up for that mistake later by drafting him. And by the way, I still think Javon Bullard is going to be a very good defensive back in this league. I think he might be a little bit blocked at safety, where I still think is his best position, by Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney. Guess what? they took a guy in the 4th round that's even better than the guy in the 2nd round. And the guy in the 2nd round is pretty darn good. That's not the worst case scenario in the world. And I still very much expect Jordan Morgan to be a good at worst, a solid to good at worst starting offensive lineman in this league. And you can never have enough of those. I mean, heck, if Jordan Morgan becomes, just think about this logically, right? If Jordan Morgan becomes a solid starting offensive lineman, based on numbers this past year, that's a 15 to 20 million per year player that you got in that round. That is not a waste of a draft pick by any means. So, and you can find corners, you can find defensive backs in free agency. It is very hard to find good offensive linemen. And even guys like Dan Moore are going for 15, 20 mil per year. So I still think he is going to pay that pick off in the scheme of time. And I think he's going to have a real great chance to get significant snaps this year. So yes, I do think he would have been a nice pick there, but I think most of us know that by this point. Was Will Johnson worse in 2024 than 2023 because he was used differently in Martindale's defense than in Minter's defense? Snoop Robbie Rob, I'm going to be totally honest with you and say, I'm more looking when I'm looking at, these prospects, I'm looking at traits more than I'm looking at necessarily how they're used. So I will go and obviously watch, 2023 and 2024. Off the top of my head, I would tell you, I didn't see a major change in usage. Somebody statistically might be able to point to that, to otherwise on that. And I don't have a great answer for it because I didn't necessarily chart how they were utilizing him. When I went and watched him, I was looking at how he was playing, his athletic traits, how he transitioned, how he was in man, how he was in zone, all of those sort of things. So that's what I'm looking for more. I'm not necessarily looking for, how he did in different schemes. I'm looking in general, like how he would be a scheme fit and everything. And I do think he'd be a very good scheme fit within Jeff Hafley's defense. So I also would say, I don't think he was significantly worse in 2024 or anything like that. When I went and watched both 23 and 24, I saw a very similar player. Corner is such a, I could use a few swear words here. It is a fickle position. Sometimes you have really good coverage and you just get beat and the player makes a play. Other times you have bad coverage and it's a missed throw or, that they don't look your way or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you just have to hang with them a little bit. I think Will Johnson's a good player. As I've said before, not my favorite guy in this draft. Once you get to pick 23, I'm a little bit more open to this, discussion. I think when you're talking about him as a top 10 player, I'm like, whew, that seems extremely rich. And I think the thing that kind of puts me over the top is I do think he would be very, very good in this defense. And this defense is predicated a lot on being able, as most defenses are, on being able to take away the ball. And I think the way that Jeff Hafley utilizes these guys, he would be put in positions to take away the ball. I think that would be a very good thing for Will Johnson. So would not be mad at the pick. And I still think he's a good football player. I think the injury is and the long speed are maybe a little bit more concerning than what any, dip in production in 2024. But it's an interesting, kind of thought process nonetheless. Haven't heard you mention Trey Harris. What do you think of him as a player and a possible fit in LaFleur's offense? I actually have not watched Trey Harris in his entirety yet. It's actually on my to-do list. I will get to him before we get to the draft. I promise. There's probably about 20 guys I still want to go and watch, and Trey Harris is definitely one of those. So I will get to him. What I have seen, I've actually really liked. Now, I do tend to like Ole Miss wide receivers. They're a little bit of a wide receiver to maybe a little bit of a lesser extent than maybe something like Ohio State or something like that. But they've definitely had, some really good wide receivers for them. And when I did go out and watch him, I like the size. I like the physicality, being able to come back. I thought he made good breaks on the ball. A little bit of I think kind of like a 3 or 4 route guy at Ole Miss, which is usually the case at Ole Miss. But I want to watch him a little bit more, get a little bit more nuance and detail. But I don't know that he's exactly what Green Bay needs is kind of maybe the bigger issue, at least right now. But if they took him, just based on what I've seen so far, would not be upset with that. I actually, in the little that I watched of Harris, I actually liked him a little bit more than what I liked Jaden Higgins. So I would be a little bit more excited, I think, if that was the pick there. But again, I want to watch him a little bit more in his entirety before I make a full, kind of determination on that. All right. Love and football. I will get to all the super chats as well. I appreciate you guys sending those in. I'll get to those in just a moment. We'll fast forward to those and then come back to love and football here in just a second. Brian Gutekunst said he doesn't view first rounders as guys that need to contribute right away. With that said, what day 1 to 2 guys do you think they'll be interested in seem like immediate contributors versus projects? All right. So guys in the first round that you think, or that I think could come in and be immediate contributors, Emeka Egbuka, I do think could come in and have some level of contribution immediately. How they utilize him and Jaden Reed together it would be interesting. I do think he can play on the outside, but I have no doubt that he's going to be some level of impact. I think maybe not dissimilar to what we saw from like Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed in their rookie seasons, and maybe even a little bit of a step above that. So I think he could come in and help right away. Derek Harmon. I think Derek Harmon could easily come in and help right away. Now, defensive tackles are, it's a tough position to transition into. The physicality is a lot more. The technique is a lot more. You've got to be able to really be honed in on your side of the everything with technique. So I'm not saying he's going to come in and dominate, but I would be pretty surprised if he wasn't able to come in and at least be a pretty solid rotational player, both against the run and against the pass right away. Kenneth Grant, maybe not as a pass rusher right away, but I do think that I don't think there's any chance that he couldn't come in and help your run defense in some real way right from the get-go. Michael Williams would be a great run defender on the edge from day one as you continue to work on his pass rush. I still think Shamar Stewart's going to be able to come in. I know there's the concerns. I don't think he's going to be a finished product. I still think he's going to be able to come in and make some level of impact as a rotational edge rusher. Jahdae Barron, I think, would come in and immediately be a playmaking defensive back in that secondary. How they utilize him, where they utilize him, those are a bit more interesting questions. But I think he's got it. He's a little bit more of an alpha guy. You can take away the ball. You'll find ways to get him on the field because you will want him on the field. Will Johnson, I think, can come in and play right away as an outside corner. And then Trey Amos would be somebody else who I think could come in and play pretty quickly at outside corner as well. So all of those players, I think, could come in and contribute at some point, pretty close to right away, if not, kind of maybe on the Edgerrin Cooper plan where maybe it takes a handful of games to get acclimated, but once they're acclimated, they'd be able to kind of hit the ground running after that. I will come back to Love and Football. We'll get to some of these super chats. Carla, thank you so much for that. That is very, very kind of you. Thank you for being you and everything you do. Love the Evan Williams interview today and the Q&A with Justice yesterday. What are you going to be eating and drinking during the live on Thursday? Nothing. I don't think I'm going to be eating anything. I think it's kind of like a faux pas to eat on camera. So I won't be eating anything. I will definitely have probably a couple drinks lined up. I will guarantee you I will have a kickstart lined up for Thursday. And then I will definitely have some Coke Zeros as well. I will probably not have any beverages because I should say just alcoholic beverages because I'm definitely going to need to, cover the draft in its entirety as soon as obviously throughout the course of the night and then after do podcasts for the next morning and things like that as well. So it's going to be a very late night. It's going to be a very busy night. It's going to be a very fun night, but I'm going to keep a clear head. So kickstarts and Coke Zeros are probably going to be the go-to, and I'm going to make sure I'm all fed prior to the start of the night. So that's kind of the plan right now. Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that a ton. Mike, hi, Andy. My two draft crushes are Jalen Royals from Utah State and Hairston from Kentucky. And I love Scatterbo. He could be this year's version of Kuhn. I've not watched Scatterbo just because you can probably understand I didn't spend a lot of time on early running backs in this draft. But I would actually like to get to him because I think just the little that I've seen when I've watched college football, he's a really, really fun player. So I can understand the crush just from what I've seen. Royals is a fun outside wide receiver. Round 2, round 3, I would be fine with either of those. The thing I like about Royals, he's good at everything. There's nothing that you look at and you're like, oh my God, he's spectacular. There's nothing that you look at and be like, oh, he just sucks at this. He's just kind of good at everything. He's just a good, well-rounded wide receiver. You know what Green Bay could use? Just another good, well-rounded wide receiver. Now, we all would love a all-pro, right? Like that would be great. A true number one. But I think he's consistent. I think he's reliable. He's got good hands. Like he's just going to give you kind of exactly what you want. And I there's nothing wrong with that. Second round, third round, I'd be totally cool with Jalen Royals. And then Hairston from Kentucky. The off-field thing, as Justice has talked about, you just got to dot your I's and cross your T's. Not here to be the arbiter of anything. It's not my thing. I care, but I don't, I'm not going to research that a ton. I'll let the people that have those important decisions make those important decisions. Assuming that checks out, I love Hairston as a player. I as much as it pains me to say, I'm with Peter Bukowski on this of when they take a corner of that size and that, he's just a little bit on the thinner side, right? I will, in the first round, I will kind of believe it when I see it. Would have no issue with the pick whatsoever. I really like him as a player. I think he has a true superpower. I talked about this, when you watch Edgerrin Cooper on tape, you're like, yep, he's just a weird, bizarro player that's fast, that plays faster than anyone else on the field. Like, that's a special trait. Hairston was the same way in the SEC, just moves different than everyone. Those are usually good type of players to pick. And his ability to jump routes with that speed is impressive. He's got good length. He's got, for his size and length and speed, he's really a very fluid player as well. And fluidity is like the 1A thing that I look for at corner. So I like him quite a bit. I would have no issue at 23. I would like it more at if you move back to 28 and picked him there, or even if you could get him later, great. But I would like that probably a little bit more. I think 23 might be a tad rich, but even that I'd have no issue with, again, assuming the off-field stuff is clear. But like both of those players, and Mike, I can certainly see why you would like both of them as well. Be glad you're not watching the Bucs game. 50-38 as we speak right now. It's a very frustrating team. It's a very, very frustrating team. There are days where I wish I had a Bucs a day podcast or a daily Buck. I don't know what we call it, but they are one of the least enjoyable teams to watch. Just their style of play, their coaching. I love watching Dame play basketball individually. I love watching Giannis play basketball individually. AJ Green's a fun shooter. Kevin Porter Jr. brings a good energy. We don't have to talk about his off the court stuff either, but they're, as a collective, as a team, my God, it is not a fun brand of basketball to watch. Kyle Kuzma's a nightmare. Bobby Portis, you get 20% of the games, which are really fun, and then 80%, which are just complete nightmare fest. Yeah, we don't have to go into it any further, but just, it's not a joy to watch that team. I hope they come back. I hope they win the championship. I will be there in attendance. Again, if they're in the finals, I will, get there to playoff games, if they can advance past Indiana. But yeah, right now it's a struggle, to say the least. The time of year when I sit back and trust Brian Gutekunst. Love your show, Wade. Thank you so much for that. More importantly, thank you for being a member for 19 months. Appreciate that a ton as well. All right, let's get back to Love and Football. I think it was 609. There we go. I know the dream is likely shattered, but if you're the GM and Tet falls to 23, are you working the phones or running the card? You're the one guy that doesn't seem to love him. That surprises me. I feel like there is not a consensus on Tet, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just wrong on that. I kind of try to stay away from what everyone else is saying about players so I can make my own mind up on players and not be influenced by different things. I feel like he's a little bit more polarizing but maybe that's just my naive view of it. Maybe that's not the case at all. Maybe everyone does seem to love him. Like I've said with Tet, I just don't feel comfortable. And I've watched him, I've gone back and watched him a few times. I'm just I gotta nail down my eval of him. I'll probably go back and watch him before the start of Thursday as well, just because I feel like I do need to nail down my eval of him. I think sometimes players are just very unique, and it's tough to get a great feel of exactly what version of that you're going to get in the NFL. This is another one where, again, I talked about the 6'4" wide receiver. That's not my particular brand of wide receiver. My brand of wide receiver, just to be crystal clear, is the great route runners that know how to separate. I want those for days. I love that the certain wide receivers can run after the catch. That's great, but I want you to start that run after the catch when you're catching a 15-yard pass in the middle of the field because you got open, because you're a great releaser off the line of scrimmage and a great route runner and know how to uncover whether it's via man or zone. Those are my type of wide receivers. I love that you might be able to get deep, but those shots just in and of themselves are, high risk, high reward. The completion percentage are not great. The true artists at the position, Devontae in his prime, Stephon Diggs in his prime, Terry McLaurin obviously has some great route running ability. The true artists at the position are, to me, the ones that are really special and can make, I think, a huge difference. And so those are the type of players I like a little bit more. So for that reason, again, the guys like Tet, where a lot of times you have to maybe throw a few more contested passes and things like that. That's, again, not usually my typical brand of wide receiver. That being said, the one thing I will say is one of the things I like to do is watch how the defense reacts to player, or how the opposition does. So if you're watching an offensive lineman, watch how the defensive end tries to go against that offensive lineman. If you're watching obviously vice versa. If you're watching a corner, watch how the wide receiver tries to attack them, and again, vice versa. And you can tell how focused in teams had to be on Tet, and you can tell how much of a pain he was to have to go against. And that's usually a very good sign. I think he's going to be a good player. I think I'd be surprised Again, if he doesn't go before 23, I'd be surprised if he doesn't end up being a good player. I think you're going to get something that you can utilize no matter what. As to whether or not he can live up to, again, like top 10, top 12, be a legitimate like star at the position, I'm just not fully convinced there yet. If he's there at 23, I would be excited, would be the word that I would use if they picked him. Not confident, not like thrilled, not like, oh my God, run the card up. I would have a level of excitement because I think there's something he could bring to the table that's not there. And there is the off chance that you get a star. I mean, they're like, if he hits his ceiling, he is a big time star in this league. There's no question about it. I'd have some concern that you get a player that can't get off of press coverage as easily. And, that doesn't deal well with the physicality of the NFL. But all of these players have, upsides, downsides, things that you have to mitigate, things that you have to, kind of bring to the forefront. And I think you're going to get a good player no matter what. He's just a tougher eval for me. But I would be on the hopeful side, I think, if they took him. I just don't, again, think it's going to happen at pick 23. All right. Mike, non-Packers question for you, Andy. Say Shedeur slips to 12. Does Jerry think about it? He just might, just a gut feeling. It's a good question. I haven't put too much thought into that. I'm going to say no. I think that the contract they gave Dak is just too, I think they've made their choice. I'm a big Dak believer too. I'm a Dak regular season believer. I get and understand that, listen, you have to show it in the playoffs as well. You can't just do it in the regular season. But yeah, I don't think they would. It would certainly make for really good draft day content. That's for sure. And where things kind of go from there. I would say not impossible, but not likely is how I would kind of define that one. All right. Where do we leave off here? If Jaire is attending workouts, does that change the calculus of the situation at all? I'm going to say no with the potential that it's yes. I don't think it changes Green Bay's mind of what they're trying to do and to move on from him. I think if he does show up, there's always the off chance where there's a conversation had, or there's a change of hearts, or there's a come to Jesus moment for, I'm not saying for Jaire or for the Packers or just in general, right? There's a kumbaya, there's a, whatever you want to call it, right? A galvanizing moment where they just come together and say, hey, this is stupid. Let's figure something out. I'd like to stay a Packer. You guys need a big time corner. Like, how can we make this work? Do I expect that to happen? No. I am now very much in the camp where I would be stunned if Jaire is back this year, like shocked, stunned, fall out of my chair. I'd be very, 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 very surprised if he's back in Green Bay. But if he's there for the workouts, again, I don't think it changes anything in and of itself, but you never know. Again, maybe there's a crossing of paths or a changing of hearts or whatever the case may be, and something changes with that. But as of now, I do not expect Jaire to be a member of the team this year. How were you able to start a radio show and sound like you have been doing it for years? John, I am very thankful for you saying that. I don't think that personally, I don't think that that's necessarily the true case. I don't feel like I sound like a radio host. It's just, I mean, I think I can do, I think I can hang or whatever. Like, I don't think it's bad. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think like when I listen to, like, as soon as, Mitch comes on after, like, oh yeah, that's like a big time radio voice. And when you hear Sparky, like that's a radio voice. When you hear Marcus Eversole, or when I go on other radio shows, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like a big time energy and a big time voice and a big time personality. And like, I'm just there to like talk Packers for an hour and kind of do what we do here. And we're going to break down prospects and we're going to do everything. So I think it's different. I also don't mind that. I don't hate that. I don't know if, we'll see what they think of it in the long term or whatever. But I like that it's a little bit different. You can go and hear radio shows everywhere. I kind of want to bring a little bit of a different approach, be something different, be something unique. Maybe that ends up being terrible. Maybe nobody wants that. If they want that, they'll listen to a podcast. Maybe if they tune into the radio, they want a big boisterous personality. That could be the case. But for me, I'm really enjoying doing it. I get to talk to really smart people every single day about the Packers, which has been a ton of fun. I get to talk, topics of my choosing, about the Packers, get to mix in a little bit of Bucks Brewers talk here and there, but it's been very enjoyable so far and hopefully it continues to go well. But it's funny that you say that because again, I feel like I'm a little bit more I'm a podcaster at heart, I guess. And I feel like it maybe comes across a little bit more that way. But again, very kind words of you, and thank you very much. Are the pro personnel guys involved in the draft at all, or do they just do their own thing? It's a great question. I don't have a perfect answer for you. I do know that usually this time of year, it's all hands on deck. Now, the pro personnel guys have their own things that they're looking at, right? There's still free agents that are out there. I'm sure they're watching a lot of UFL at the moment and some of the stuff that's out there, trying to figure out and watch the tape to see if there's any diamonds in the rough that they want to bring in from those leagues. I'm sure that they are watching, already tape for the free agency class in 2026. Like that's how far ahead of these things that these guys get. So they have their own stuff to do, but it wouldn't surprise me if like there's certain things that, maybe Brian or some of the draft side of the equation check with the pro personnel side to just be like, hey, what do you think of this? Just to maybe get like a second set of eyes here or there, but they have plenty on their own plates, I'm sure, as well. What do you make of we don't use RAS, but incomplete testing makes it more difficult? We have our own system, etc. Was the one part of the press conference that I thought was telling. Seems some guys are DQ'd for Brian Gutekunst. So here's my overarching thought. By the way, Ross Uglum did an interview today with Kentley Platty, who is the creator of RAS, talking about this, and Goody talking about RAS. That's going to go up at some point today or tomorrow. I don't know exactly when yet. Maybe as soon as we're done here, I'll throw that up. But I knew that I had a 99.9% feel that they did not use RAS. The reason being is because they liked super traitsy dudes and highly athletic guys before RAS even was thought of by Kent, before it even existed. So it doesn't surprise me that they don't use it because, again, they were already drafting these type of players. They clearly, as he said I thought he was very clear in the press conference, and I think everything he said makes sense. They're aware of what RAS is. They have their own set of analytics. And he said, we come from the Ron Wolf and Ted Thompson trees. We love traits. I mean, he just said it flat out. We love traits. That matters. They have analytics. This is no disrespect to RAS, which I love. You guys know I love it. They have analytics that are so far beyond relative athletic score that will get it to a much higher level. They have the GPS tracking data. They have so much stuff at their disposal that gives them a great picture of how athletic these players are. It's a different formula, analytic, however you want to view it, right? Algorithm than what RAS is. It gets you to basically a general same result of freaky athletic dudes. It's like using old math versus common core math. They're going to get you to the same general answer, right? They're going to get you the same answer. It's just they're doing it in different ways. For us, we don't know the input, output, if then statements that are going into Green Bay's exact algorithm, right? We don't know that. They have their own thing. We do know that whatever their thing is, the output gets you to an RAS of over 8 a huge chunk of the time, and almost always over 5. So RAS is a phenomenal tool for us to help us look at it and say, all right, these are probably the guys that are going to get output in whatever thing that they're doing that's going to get to the level of athlete that they're looking for. What they're using, again, is probably far advanced of anything RAS, that we have, right? But we can still look at it and say, RAS over 9, big time Green Bay guy. RAS over 8 definitely checks most of the boxes. RAS 5 to 7 or 5 to 7.99, workable, but it's a little bit more of like, is this kind of their key kind of guy? And RAS under 5, they pretty much stay away from altogether. So it's a good tool for us. It tells a lot for us, but they have stuff well beyond that. And yes, when they don't have traits, when they don't have testing that they can fill in, it leaves you with no information in certain boxes. When you hear Daniel Jeremiah or Mel Kiper, somebody say like, this prospect checks all the boxes, right? It's a cliche, lame scouting term, but legitimately you're going through what's their agility, what's their speed, what's their height, what's their weight, what's their productivity, what's their off the field, what's their health, what's their, like, there's literally, and it's not legitimate, like check, but it's like literally everything that you're looking for on these players. You want as many answers to the equation as possible. And the more things that you can check and say, yes, they're good at, or yes, they have the ability to do it, the better you feel about the prospect. Even then, even if you're checking everything, it still doesn't always necessarily equate to the perfect player. It just means that there's less question marks. There's less cause for concern or issue or things that could come up when they're an NFL player. And you want as much data as possible to get you to that final conclusion that it's going to give you the best possible output of them being able to become a good NFL to great NFL player. So yes, every GM wants every piece of data that they can get. It's why they spend so much time, effort, and energy all throughout the year on this process. It just gives you a better batting percentage at the plate when you have better information. So they're definitely going to be bummed when they don't have certain testing scores, but definitely using a more advanced approach than what RAS probably gives them. Danny Joe Heron, I don't buy for 1 second that he doesn't use RAS. I don't use it means I tweaked one part of it, but it's basically the same thing unless someone could tell me a different metric used. No, again, using a lot of the GPS data. Again, the formula that they use, I don't even know that they necessarily use a formula, right? Like what I would say is they have probably more what I would say are thresholds of like, they want somebody that runs a certain 40. They want somebody that runs a certain, 3-cone or that has a certain level of agility. They want somebody who has a certain amount of explosiveness, which usually is told by the vertical and the broad jump. I think they have more thresholds for players that they want them to hit than they're looking at. We're gonna put a formula into our secret system and it's gonna punch out a ticket and it's gonna say, all right, Emeka Egbuka, you are a Green Bay Packer. Like it's not that. I don't think there's anything like that. So no, I'm 1 million. I predicted ahead of time. I was 1,000,000% of the belief that they did not use RAS. Did they use analytics to help them? Yes, he said that flat out in the press conference. So they have something that they use. Their analytics team gives them the percentage of likelihood of whatever. So they definitely use it. They're aware of it and they love traits. But I don't think for a second that they're using RAS. And again, I think the biggest tell is that they like these type of guys well before RAS even existed. I'm in on the Evan train. Tucker's still the new younger Packer, what it means to be a Packer, but Evan is coming to rival him. He's awesome. He's a really cool guy, meant to be a Green Bay Packer. I will put it that way. We're going to get back to John in just a moment. I saw a couple super chats come in. We'll gladly take Giannis in Chicago after he asks for a trade. We're going to have to trade Giannis just to get off of the Kyle Kuzma contract at this point. Does this Kuzma have a stat yet in this game? He has got 1 for 3, 2 for 2 from the line, 4 points, 1 foul, 1 assist, -7 on the plus minus. Giannis actually -12, worst plus minus on the team. The best, Jericho Sims, +4. Who'd have thought? Who knew? Who asked? All right. That's where we're at. Oops, I didn't mean to turn that off. So Pacers up 8 at halftime. Probably not the Bulls, by the way. You don't have enough young stuff. You're probably looking at Thunder, Spurs, Rockets. Those are the teams that you're probably gonna have to compete with that have all the picks, all the swaps, all the young talent, all that. Those are the teams that you're going to be competing with. So good luck with getting him to be a Bull. You don't have anything anyone wants at this point. Sorry, Mike. Carlo, what player would shock you if the Packers draft him in round 1? All right, shock me. I'm going to go realistic here, Carla. All right, what would shock me? I probably shouldn't look at this because this is more of like a Packers based. Okay. I'd be pretty shocked in a good way if it was Luther Burden. I would love that pick. I would love that pick so damn much. I'd be pretty shocked if they felt like he was their type. I didn't even put him. I'm going to do the big board episode for tomorrow. I don't even have him on my big board because I just don't think that'll be the case. I'd be pretty surprised if it was Mike Green, smaller defensive end, small school, and off-field concerns. So I'd be pretty surprised if it was him. I'd be pretty stunned if it was like Omarion Hampton or any of the running backs, right? Certainly would be stunned if it was a quarterback. Here's the ones that like are not entirely impossible, but would be like pretty hard to wrap your mind around would be the 2 tight ends, right? Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren, both fantastic players. And if they fell to 23, you'd have to like be like, all right, do we just have to kind of take them? Like they're probably the best player on the board. Musgrave hasn't shown anything in 2 years. Like, do we just take them and team them with Tucker Kraft and make the best tight end combo in football? I'd be very surprised, obviously. That kind of goes without saying. But that would at least be somewhat of interest and of intrigue. I'd be pretty stunned at Tyler Booker grabbing just a guard after signing Aaron Banks already to a huge contract in the offseason. I love Tyler Booker. I think he's a really, really, really good player, but I'd be pretty surprised by that. Gray Zabel is another one where like very Packersy type athletically, tackle kicking inside. But again, having him kick inside, having already depth, I think, or at least you probably not wanting to spend first round pick on depth at the position, plus small school, a little bit overaged, not exactly their type. Maybe he's not overaged, maybe it's somebody else. But either way, I don't think that would be the direction that they would go in. Those would probably be ones off the top of my head. Nick Emanwari, the safety, a very unique and interesting piece, but I just can't see them going in that direction. Obviously, Malachi Starks at safety would be a very similar one. So there'd definitely be some that would be pretty stunning. But if you look at like at least somewhat in the realm of possibility, the tight ends would probably be the most surprising, that I could at least find a multiverse in maybe which something like that would happen, where they just fell in love with them and somehow they were there. All right. John, would you trade Jaire for Jalen Ramsey straight up? Would you throw in a late round pick to make it happen? I probably would not. I don't think that deal actually does anyone any favors. You're going to have to pay Ramsey a ton. There's some talk already of him potentially moving to safety. You're already set at safety. I don't think he's the same player that he once was. I don't think, again, I think they want to get off of it because of the contract. Green Bay wants to get off of it because of the contract. I just don't think it makes sense for either side. So no, I don't. Whether I would do it or not, I would be very surprised if anything like that happened. And I do not see a swap of the two players happening. How religiously do these teams use the Rich Hill chart for actual draft trades? Like, I assume if someone wants to make a deal, it doesn't matter. But do you think it's the majority? I think everyone has their own charts probably at this point, where they've kind of evolved them from some of the charts that are out there. There's obviously numerous charts that teams will kind of utilize and use. I think, for the teams that are maybe a little bit more lazy, they may use the Rich Hill chart as kind of like a general basic guideline. But a couple things. I think one, every draft is a little bit different and you're going to view it differently. So you can't use the same chart for every draft. That, just think about it logically. That's ridiculous, right? If you have a very down draft at the top of the draft, you're going to have to give up less. If you have a very top heavy, very quarterback driven draft, it's going to change things. Like just the depth and the talent in the draft can change that chart pretty aggressively. Then, like I said, I think almost the good teams have done their own analytical studies of like where the most value is, pick by pick, where you can get each player, and like, again, utilizing what they expect that draft class to be, and kind of put their own value chart together and have an idea of what they would be willing to give up. And then it's just a lot of those conversations that take place ahead of time of, what value there is, how high you can get, what teams are willing to trade. A lot of that work is being done right now to kind of work out how you can move up and down the draft board if you need to, because the 10, 7 minutes, whatever you have on the clock, is just not a ton of time to try to consummate a deal all at once. So you have to have kind of some of those conversations ahead of time. At least it helps you if you can have some of that done ahead of time. But I'm sure there's still some Rich Hill trade charts out there that are being used in some way. All right, let's see here. All right, everyone has Jaden Higgins rated 45 or 46. Are we going to have to trade up for him in the second, or would you prefer to stand pat and take Jack Besh? I would love Jack Besh, even if if they were both there at 54, I would take Jack Besh. I think there's a good chance if you want Higgins in the second, you probably have to move up, or at least there's a good chance of it. Never know. These are always very difficult things to predict, just the draft in general. I could see a world in which Higgins goes end of round 1, and I could see a world in which he goes end of round 2. Like, I think there's a lot of players in this draft from just pretty much like pick 5 on, that there's like a 30 pick range, where if you told me like almost like a full round, like if you told me that they went from like 15 to like 47, like it wouldn't stun me. Like that's how crazy I think this draft is, and just kind of how clustered together a lot of these players are. So to me, Higgins, his ceiling is end of round 1, and his floor would probably be end of round 2, beginning of round 3. If you told me he went anywhere in there, I would not be stunned. So possible he's there, but also very possible that they'd have to move up. Aaron, go Pack go. I also cannot wait for the draft. I can, because I guess I always want to study like 300 more guys. So I would take as much time as you want to give me, but I am like, today was the day it hit me of like, oh my God, the draft's in 2 days. Like it like really, really hit me this today of like, it's here. Like we kind of made it, and it was, I don't know, very exciting. Andy, I know we're supposed to talk Packers only, but I'm just kind of curious how many draft picks the teams in our division have, and what's your thoughts on what they're going to take. Minnesota has no picks. Actually, let me bring up this. All right. So let's see. Minnesota has 4, I believe. They have picks 24, 97, 139, and 187. So Minnesota has a 24, a first, a third, a fifth, and a sixth. That's all they got. My expectation for them is that they would trade down, that they're going to try to trade down and get more picks. I could easily see them going with somebody like Nicky Manwari, who I think would be beautiful in a bad way for us, but beautiful in Brian Flores' defense. Remember, Harrison Smith, his time is probably coming to an end. This easily could be his last year as a Minnesota Viking. So somebody like Nicky Manwari or Malachi Starks could make a ton of sense. I think it even makes more sense if they trade down and then get that player. But they rank 32nd out of 32 teams in overall draft capital. Chicago obviously is at pick 10. That's going to be the big one for them. They've got a first, a first 2 seconds, a third, a fifth, and 2 sevenths. They rank 6th in total draft capital. They could go in so many different directions. If Genty ends up being there, they could take Genty. I could see them going pass rush. I could see them even adding more to the offensive line. The tight ends, Loveland or Tyler Warren, I think would be in play there. So they could go in a variety of different directions. But they have quite a bit of draft capital and could kind of do what they want. My big thing is, like, I'm really hoping that they don't do something to like trade up for Abdul Carter. Like if Abdul Carter gets to like 3 and they're at pick 10, like, would they trade their 2 seconds and their first? Like, is that enough to get up? Do they have to trade some other stuff as well? But I just really don't want to see them do something crazy and get one of the true stars in this draft. So if they could find a way to not have or not go get Abdul Carter, I would be very thrilled with that. I don't want them to get Genty either. I think he's a legitimate stud, like a real true star. Like, not the same player, but I think a LaDainian Tomlinson level star at the position. Like, I think that's where I would kind of put him. I don't want to have to, I want to be able to cheer for him or at least like enjoy him. I really do not want him in Chicago. As far as Detroit goes, where is Detroit here? They have a first, a second, a third, a fourth, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. So they're missing their 5th. They've got an extra 7th. They are ranked 28th in overall draft capital. So not super great. They need a pass rusher. They need somebody to go opposite Aiden Hutchinson. So you could see a variety of different players, whether, somebody like Michael Williams is still there. I don't think that's going to be the case, or a Shamar Stewart. I could see James Pierce being somebody that they would potentially like at that spot. Donovan Ezeraku, man, I would hate that if he went there. I wouldn't be surprised if they went edge rusher early in round 1. So that's kind of how I'm watching and looking at the division right now. Rob, good to see you. Any cool stories about meeting Packers players when you were a kid? Yeah, I have the picture. I mean, obviously now it's a little bit, different, but at the time, Brett Favre, when it was actually, I think, like after the Bengals game, or at least right out, or either before that or right before that, or right after that, but before like anyone really knew who he was. I've got him with his San Jose Sharks hat on, with his hand on my head. And I've got a picture of him. That was a really cool experience. He was just doing a radio show at a bar in Green Bay, go figure. And we went and saw the radio show. My dad knew somebody who owned the bar, and was like, hey, these Packers are stopping by, coming, and there was like nobody in the bar. Like, it was like maybe 2 or 3 people there to listen to the radio show. And we went and got to meet Brett Favre. So that was kind of a cool one at the time. I don't think I have a ton of other like crazy childhood player. One of my favorite ones, this is not like me meeting a player, but this is one of my favorite training camp stories. This was when Reggie White was a Green Bay Packer. And what many people do not know is there was a second Reggie White. He was a camp body only. He was a running back, if memory serves. And there were literally 2 people named Reggie White. And, or I think it was, I'm almost positive it was Reggie White. If not that, it was R White. So it at least was the initial R with White on the jersey. I think it was also a Reggie White, but that I could maybe be misremembering. I was, 8 at the time or whatever. But there was definitely somebody with the initials R and White, and I'm almost positive it was a running back. And all the people, they would see R White and run up and just disregard the number, the size, the anything. It would be R White, and everyone would just beeline to get the autograph from R White. And it was very much not Reggie White, but they didn't know that. So there's a bunch of people running around with Reggie White autographs that think they have Reggie White autographs that have some random, practice squad running back that never made it anywhere in the league. I don't know. Maybe somebody can confirm for me what the name was, or if it was Reggie White. I don't know. Maybe somebody has that memory or can look it up. But there was definitely an R White that everyone got autographs from. So that was always very funny to me at the time. All right. You can take any non-football athlete, basketball, soccer, baseball, whatever, who didn't play college football for the Packers practice squad. Who do you take and for what position? I mean, I'm going to definitely take a basketball player and try to figure something out. I mean, like part of me just wants to take like Giannis, right? Like, let's see if he can just block some field goals, if nothing else, and or just be like a red zone threat. Like I just want to see what it looks like of like Giannis in football pads. Like I would be interested in that. Like I think LeBron legitimately would have been a freak tight end in his prime. Like I don't know how he wouldn't have been. I don't know if there's like somebody like that at the moment. I'd have to think a little bit more through like all the great players. But yeah, like LeBron in his prime would have, I think, legitimately been a unbelievable tight end. But I don't know. I'll go Giannis just because I think he's a legitimate freak, and who knows, he'll figure out some way to be effective. But I'm going to say it's just a designated field goal blocker and like red zone weapon. That's what I'm going to go with. What is the UDFA planning process like now before the draft and immediately after the draft? What is the minimum UDFA gets paid? I have to look at what the minimum salary in 2025 is $840,000. So 840 in year one, and then it goes up from there. So $840K this year is going to be the minimum salary for a rookie undrafted free agent. Usually they sign a 3-year deal and it's a sliding scale, right? It goes up to the minimum each year, but $840K is the minimum for this season for an undrafted free agent rookie. Process is, some people like the Green Bay will use top 30 visits to do to bring players in to basically do recruitment on UDFAs. You start planting the seeds with agents and saying like, hey, if your guy doesn't get drafted, we want him in Green Bay. In which the agent every single time was, hey, if you want my guy's getting drafted, if you want my guy, you're going to have to draft him. And there's a collective rolling of the eyes of like, yeah, sure. But if something happens, it's just by happenstance, he doesn't get drafted because he's not going to get drafted. We're very interested in him. So there's a little bit of recruitment there. And then even as you get to 7th round on the clock, probably even late 6th round, your agents and people you have like scouts and everyone within the organization that are going to be calling to different agents to try to get undrafted free agents into Green Bay to get them as members of the team. So it's a very wild process. Like I actually kind of believe it's become so crazy and the draft is so popular. And this might be an unpopular take that I think you could probably go to like 10 rounds in the NFL draft. You could probably even do more than that, by the way. But I'm actually kind of surprised that the NFL has not done this yet. Like they haven't added like a 4th day of rounds like 8 through 10 or 8 through 12. Because there's enough players to legitimately do it. I'm not exactly sure why. It probably is an NFLPA thing where less players want to get drafted, not more. It's better to not get drafted in those scenarios, but I'm actually kind of surprised that we don't have like an 8th through 10th round with how much interest there is in undrafted free agents. Excuse me. With Kevin King reinventing himself on special teams, would it have been good to add him? And could he at least have contributed a little to cornerback, kind of like we were looking at Isaiah Simmons? Yeah, I think sometimes when you get to that point with a player, it's just better for everyone to kind of go in a different direction. It was certainly that way with Kevin King, where Green Bay needed to go somewhere different and get some more players in. And Kevin King needed to go and reinvent himself. And kudos to him. That's exactly what he did. Could they have looked at him this offseason? Sure. I think sometimes where you bring a player back like that, it's not always the most likely. Now, it's happened before. Devon House came back. There's been some, obviously, Tramon Williams left and came back. Amon Green left and came back. There's other examples as well. But I think when somebody is a bust one place, a lot of times it's just better if they kind of find a new home somewhere else. And he obviously found a new home in Atlanta. And listen, if you're going to get a minimum deal from Green Bay or a minimum deal in Atlanta, and they were the ones that kind of unlocked him and gave him a new role and gave him new life, he's probably just going to stay in Atlanta, right? So I think that's probably best for him. And I don't think Green Bay has certainly any regrets at this point. I'm sure they have regrets that they took him, but, not keeping him longer, I don't think they have any regrets. Andy, my man, who are you most excited about as a first-round pick in your time as a Packer fan? Vonnie Holiday. It has been since Vonnie Holiday that I have been outside of my body excited. And again, I don't even know what the hell I was talking about. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about now, but I certainly did not know what the hell I was talking about back then. But I went into that draft wanting Vonnie Holiday. He was my guy. He was the one guy that I wanted. And they got Vonnie Holiday. They still probably should have taken Randy Moss. But I digress. They got Vonnie Holiday. And I can't remember. Maybe Randy didn't go through Green Bay. I can't remember. Vonnie Holiday draft was the what draft was that? Why is this not an easy thing? That 1998 NFL draft. 98 NFL draft. Vonnie Holliday was taken at 19. Randy Moss was taken 21. Yeah, so they still messed that up, even though I got the guy that I wanted. Randy Moss went at 21, and then Alan Faneca went at 26, who went on to be a Hall of Famer as well. So 2 Hall of Famers went, in the next 7 picks after they took Vonnie Holliday. But screw it, damn it, I was excited about Vonnie Holliday. Still a really good pick. Like no two ways around that. Like he was a very, very good player in the NFL. But yeah, those 2 other Hall of Famers probably would have turned out pretty decent as well. If anyone has a gas mask Bond video of Tet, could we please tweet that out? Thanks. Here's the thing, John. If there is, the Packers are probably the last team to take him. So he'll drop and he'll get to 23, but Green Bay is not going to be the team that stops that drop in the draft. So there's probably not a great way to sort of do that. Yeah, I don't know how you could get him to 23. You're probably, unfortunately, John, you're just going to have to probably move up and trade for him if that's the guy that you want. What are your true thoughts on the Stanford wide receiver, not spelling his name? I feel like he doesn't get separation, but seems to have decent hands. Yeah, not a huge fan. When Justin and I talked about him a while back, and we did that kind of a homework assignment on him, Ayomanar, and I was like, this is like a 5th or 6th round pick. And then Justice was like, I didn't look it up. Just like, he's going to go in like the 3rd round. I'm like, what? Why is he going in the 3rd round? And then Justice said recently that he thinks now he might be going later, which is kind of always where I had him ranked. Like, if you get him round 6, like I'm totally cool with it. Good athlete, good blocker on the outside, good hands, like you said. He's got some physicality to him. I think he goes before round 6. He's probably, to me, I think round 4, maybe round 5 is probably, round 4 is probably fair for him, legitimately. I think top 100 gets a little crazy. There's traits that you certainly like. To your point, I don't think there's great separation there. But they need an outside wide receiver. He's a blocker. He gives you some, speed on the outside. Not the worst case scenario in the world, but 3rd round or anything above just seems very, very rich to me. So yeah, I would say if you can get him day 3, I'd feel a lot better about it. Do you agree with Goody that we should retain Wyatt? I think it very much depends on the contract / option. He's a very, very interesting sort of case study. I do think we saw signs of him last year. I do think he's kind of a guy that just needs to play more. Like his pass rush productivity is actually pretty good. I kind of just want to see a little bit more of him. He's a little bit overaged again at this point. He is currently, he's going to be 20. Oh no, he turned 27. So that's fine. I take that back. He's 27. That's not a huge deal. He just turned 27 in March. So, if you sign him to like a 4-year extension, you're going to get him for, ages 28, 29, 30, 31, or 27 through 30, depending on how you look at it. Like that's totally fine. I've wanted to see a little bit more from him as of now. I think, if you're in that 15 million per range, I think that's or more. I think it's an overpay, but I'm hoping it's more of like the 1-year compromise and you get him on like, maybe instead of paying like 12 to 15 that it is for his contract, that you get it closer to like 10 or 12, even 10 to 12, I think is fine on the 1 year. But in an ideal world, I think you'd like to see what he does this year first and then make that decision. Unfortunately, that's not the way that this works. So I think it's a close one. I really do. When they picked Savage's 5th-year option up, I was legitimately like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? This makes 0 sense. It just did. And they, of course, got caught with that awful contract and they were stuck with it. There's nothing they could have done. This one, I will at least understand. Like, I don't have a major issue with it. Same with Quays. I'll get it if they pick it up. I think you're probably looking at extensions for both and then just kind of fingers crossed they both pay those off. But I think they're good players. They're not great players. Hopefully you don't have to pay them as great players. That would be the bigger concern. She said, Joey, my prediction, round 1, corner, round 2, defensive tackle, round 3, wide receiver. So I'm going to say Will Johnson. Who do we want to go with in defensive tackle? I'm going to say Will Johnson. And then one of either Darius Alexander, Alfred Collins, or TJ Sanders in round 2. And then I would probably say you're looking at Isaac Tesla, Ayomanar, Torrey Horton, maybe a Deontay Thornton or a Ty Felton in round 3. That's probably what you're looking at if that were to kind of come to fruition. Hey, the Pacers are up 16 again. Great. All right. Hey, Andy, Goot's answer to your question on testing or lack thereof was interesting, especially saying it hurts the players. Do you see them mostly picking guys who did all the testing as a result? No, you're able to get through if they don't have testing. You can, again, work through some of the GPS data, assuming that they have it. Also, you can, you just have to trust the tape a little bit more, which is By the way, not necessarily the worst thing in the world either, but I don't think they'll avoid them. I think they would prefer to have all the testing there. Every GM would. As far as whether or not it hurts the players, it depends, for some of the players, doing the testing could help them for sure. For other players, if they all of a sudden, completely did terrible on a test, it might hurt them. And maybe the not having a score actually is better than having a score in those situations. So I think it's tough to say overarching statement of it hurts the players more than it helps them. I think there's probably a level of truth to that, but I do think it probably is a little bit more player specific than just an overarching statement like that. All right. We're going to come back to Troy. We're going to get to these super chats really quick here. All right. Mike, I'm predicting Harmon to the Packers at 23. Thoughts well within the realm of possibility. I've seen mocks where Harmon goes top 5, by the way. I've seen mocks where Harmon goes after Green Bay. Like, this is the beauty of this draft. If he's there, I think there's a strong possibility. There was some rumors of an injury for Harmon as of late that some teams have on their board. So that's another thing that Green Bay has to navigate a little bit as to whether or not they take him at 23, but he will be a very popular mocked player to Green Bay at 23. And if he's there, he would certainly be a very good selection. Any late round quarterbacks you could see Goot taking? I'm sure there are, but just being transparent, Mike, I didn't spend a ton of time on late round quarterbacks. If they draft one, I'll study them when they draft one. To kind of utilize my time on that probably just wasn't the best use of my resources, right? So I haven't looked at a lot of those guys, but I'm sure there are some out there. There are some on my big board that I think could potentially make some sense. El Gersma, who they brought in, the Canada kid, Will Howard from Ohio State, Brady Cook, Seth Hennigan, Riley Leonard, or Kyle McCord. Those could be some names to kind of keep an eye on day 3 at quarterback. All right. Carla, Hall of Famer fans deserve a treat if the Packers draft a wide receiver first round. You need to chug a beer, Bakhtiari style. I cannot chug a beer Bakhtiari style. That is not within, if you're looking at my RAS scores, my chugging beer score is very, very low. I can drink a lot of them. I cannot drink them fast. That is not my forte. So, if they draft a wide receiver round 1, I will have, I will do something. I will celebrate. Maybe I'll celebrate more on Friday after the fact, because I don't know. I'm just going to keep a beer here. I don't have a beer fridge down here. Maybe that's something I need to invest in. But I'll maybe do something if they draft a wide receiver round 1. Also, it depends on the wide receiver. If they take like Higgins round 1, I'm going to need a beer to cope more than I'm going to, have one to celebrate. But I think I just, guaranteed Higgins to the Packers in round 1. Mike Witt found a Reggie White running back. He was released by the Packers in 2003 when he was on our practice squad. Can't wait for the draft. I will be there all 3 days. Fingers crossed, no rain. Well, that was 2003 though. Reggie wasn't still there in 2003, was he? Maybe. I can't imagine he was. No, he was done with Green Bay in 98. I don't know. Maybe I'm, confusing stories. Or maybe it just happened in 2000. No, because 2003 would have been after I was out of high school. So no, that doesn't make sense either. I don't know. So I don't know. I get a half celebration that there was a Reggie White running back with the Packers, but I think there was maybe just an R White player that was there when Reggie White was also there, but maybe I'm confusing 2 different stories. Time is like that, and my memory is stupid. All right. Where did we leave off here? All right. There we were. If you could sneak into the draft room and remove 3 names from the board so the Packers couldn't take them, who would it be? I will say this. I don't have that strong of a feel of guys I really don't want in this year's draft. Guys that I'm not as big of a fan on. I think James Pierce would probably be the guy that I would remove a little bit more. But he's a pass rusher. So again, there's maybe worse things that you could do, but he'd probably be on that list. Again, I don't love Will Johnson. I don't love Walter Nolan, but I could understand both of those picks. I just don't have the vitriol towards any player this year of I just really don't want this guy. Also, maybe that's a good thing because usually they take that guy when I do. So I don't know that I have a great answer to that this year, Troy. Usually I would be like, yep, take this guy, this guy, this guy. I'll say James Pierce is the guy that I would take off, but and then just any bizarro positions, yeah, that would probably be I guess, if we're doing if Justice was right yesterday that Alfred Collins is in the realm of round 1, that would be one I would take very much quickly off their board. If they want to take him on day 2, that's fine. But round 1 is very aggressive. So I'll say Alfred Collins, James Pierce, and I'll add one more in just to complete the set. Who could go round 1? That would be, I'll say Landon Jackson is the other one. I think a fine player, but not somebody. I'm so sorry. Autumn's going to kill me. She's just ended her membership. She's a big Landon Jackson fan. I like Landon Jackson, just not in round 1. I think in round 2, I'd be totally fine with it. In round 1, it would just be a little, at 23, it would be steep for me. So I'll say Pierce, Jackson, and Autumn. You're probably right. You're probably going to be at Jackson will end up being a star in the league, and you can rub it in my face in future years. So, but I'll say Pierce, Jackson, and I already forgot who I said for the other one. But yeah, I'll go with those 3. If Edge Cooper is half as good as his potential, who the hell is Desjean? Exactly. Well said, most hated Minnesotan. I love that. Since this draft is so deep, would you say a 4th-round linebacker is better than Tyron Hopper, our 3rd last year? Can we find a 3rd starter at linebacker? I just don't think they're going to look at that position much on the first few days of the draft, or even first 4 to 5 rounds of the draft. If one falls, so be it. But I think they're going to feel pretty good about where they're at linebacker, and I certainly don't think they're giving up on Tyron Hopper yet. I also would say, like, just because Hopper didn't get the opportunity last year, and I know Justice is a non-Hopper believer, but there's something there. And again, if you remember, I did not want Hopper, and I really did not like his tape when I went back and watched it and did my deep dive. So if you remember that, I was anti that. But you see him in person, there is something there. I think you can still hopefully find a little bit of a player out of him. I don't think he's ever going to be great, but I don't think they're going to give up on him, nor should they. Let's see what they ultimately have in this linebacker room before maybe doing anything too aggressive at linebacker. There's Autumn, just hopping on. Hi, Packers Nation. Sorry, Autumn, don't kill me for taking Landon Jackson off the board in round 1. Peter Taka, hey, Andy, question. If we don't get Edge in round 1, who would you prefer in round 2? JT, Scorton, Swinson, or Birch? I'd be honestly cool with either of those. I would probably rate it JT and Swinson. I'm cool with, I would love either of those. Birch is just a small step below it. And then Scorton's probably below that. I don't believe Scorton is who he was this past year. Again, Texas A&M using these guys weird. I don't believe that was the real one. Go back and watch him at Purdue. He was a much more athletic, more fun player to watch. If you get that version, I think there's a lot more to it. So I wouldn't hate any of those, but I would again go JT and Swinson, 1, 2, in some capacity, then Birch, then Scorton in that order. Bucket A pod. Yeah, something like that. Bucks don't play defense. So frustrating. They don't do anything. No, they're only down to 12 now. There we go. Yay. Only down 12. Why is a guy like Jack Besh considered a day 2 pick when everyone only has good things to say about him? Is it his ceiling or just like groupthink? This is the one I honestly don't know, Randy. I viewed him, and again, maybe first is aggressive, but I would have no issue putting a 1st-round grade on him at all. I think he's a super talented wide receiver. I honestly don't know. He's got size. He's got good speed, good agility, great hands. Seems to be a guy that everyone loves. Again, that only has positive things to say about him. Is a good blocker on the outside, can line him up outside, can put him in the slot, can do a variety of different things with him, can win at all 3 levels. Like, I don't know. Like, I legitimately liked him more than Igbuka. I've liked him more than I probably liked him more than Tet. I think Tet has higher upside. I get why you would take Tet ahead. I think it's just a pure wide receiver. I think I actually like Besh just a little bit more. Yeah. I mean, I like him probably a little bit more than Golden too. Again, I like the upside of Golden. Don't get me wrong, but I just think he's a really, really good wide receiver. So I don't have a great answer for you, Randy. Honestly think that the 1st round is where you get your elite productive players that start right away. Then in the later rounds, you take a chance on project players. Yeah, I mean, I would put it this way, Ben. What you're trying to do is in the 1st round, at the top of the 1st round, get players that have traits and production. That's you want to marry those two. The fewer the question marks, the better. And then the longer the draft goes on, or in like a draft like this, you're going to have to compromise something at some point. Either they're not going to have the production, or they're not going to have as good of traits, or they're going to have an injury, or they're going to have an off-field concern, or there's going to be something. Just like it, all of these guys are super talented players, and there's no perfect formula for this. It's just the guy at the top has the most check boxes to check and the fewest question marks on his scouting sheet. And every pick that you go down, there are more question marks and less guarantees. And it doesn't mean that guy that you get in the 6th round doesn't go on to be the greatest quarterback of all time. And it doesn't mean that the guy that you take, Jamarcus Russell, in the 1st round goes on to be the greatest quarterback of all time. You end up with these bizarre scenarios. It's such an inexact science. But in general, you're going high-end upside plus high-end production, then usually high-end upside plus production, then high-end production plus upside. And then again, you're sort of gambling on every pick you go down after that. So again, no perfect formula. And sometimes those 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounders, I forget who it was. I was talking to Emery Hunt today on the radio, and he just brings up such a great point. We are obsessed with the 1st round. For the most part, every mock draft is a 1st round mock draft. We know the top 32 guys like the back of our hand. We know everything about these guys, their RAS scores, their backgrounds, what they did in college. These are followed forever. We care so much about the 1st round. And the draft is so much more than just the 1st round. There are 32 guys in a 250 plus pick draft that are going to go and be 1st round selections. There are guys that are going to be all pros and probably even Hall of Famers that are going to get selected after the 1st round. Almost every single year, the Packer that had the best career was not the guy that was taken in the 1st round of the draft. If you look at last year, it's probably going to be Edgerrin Cooper, 2nd round pick. The year before that, maybe Tucker Kraft, 3rd round pick. Year before that, Zach Tom, 4th round pick. The year before that, I don't know, TJ Slayton, I guess, in that draft, 5th round pick. Year before that, probably Jordan Love, right? You actually got the 1st round is probably the one that's going to have the biggest impact, or it just is going to have the biggest impact. The year before that, probably Rashawn Gary. So you had the 1st round pick and back. Actually, probably Elton Jenkins in that one. I think we would probably say Jenkins has had the better career than Gary so far. If so, then he was your 2nd round pick. Year before that was definitely Jaire in the 1st. No question about that. The year before that, Aaron Jones in the 5th. Year before that, definitely Kenny in the 1st. So you got your 1st round one there. Year before that, just nobody. Everyone sucked. Probably Ty Montgomery in the 3rd was probably the best pick. Just a brutal draft. Devontae Adams in the 2nd. The year after that, or Corey Linsley in the 5th. Could probably make an argument, but probably Devontae. Bakhtiari in the 4th in 2013. Mike Daniels in the 4th, or Casey Hayward in the 2nd in 2012. We can go on and on. Like, the amount of times that your best player is the one that was taken in the 1st round is slim. So like, you just have to understand you're taking educated guesses on these guys. It's so much more than just about the 1st round pick. You're going to miss on your 1st round picks from time to time. So many guys do. The draft is so much more about getting 3 to 4 good to really good players than it is about hitting your 1st round pick. I could give a shit if they get 3 to 4 great players and their 1st round pick was a complete bust. Do not care at all. Doesn't matter remotely to me. Just do whatever you need to do to get 3 to 4 good players to really good players out of every draft. Doesn't matter to me at all what selection they are. Don't care if they're an undrafted free agent. Just from this class as a whole, find 3 to 4 really good players. If you need to trade out of your 1st round pick and trade out of your 2nd and take, 30 3rd through 7th round guys to get to those 3 or 4, I don't care. Do whatever you need to do. Just find me 3 to 4 good players. And if you do that, you've had a great draft. And if you didn't, then you probably have left something to be desired, unless like you get a, Hall of Famer or all pro players like the one guy that you hit on, which great. A lot of times it still is maybe not going to be the 1st round pick. So I think we just make way too much out of the 1st round in any given draft. There's so much more than that. One question you guys didn't get to answer last night. What was your opinion on Goods Presser? Why he kind of denied RAS being a thing, or did I hear wrong? Yep, we went over that already. If you missed it, Ben, I think you've been here the entire time, but definitely went over that a couple different times already in this show. I'll be at Heritage Park tomorrow evening. Hope to get a chance to meet you. I'm so jacked for the entire weekend. Go Pack Go. Awesome, Mike. I will see you there 7 to 9 p.m. tomorrow at Hagemeister Park, which is right next to that Heritage Park area, as you mentioned. I think it's still there. I think there was some talk of it maybe getting removed, but either way, I'll be at Hagemeister Park again, 7 to 9. Meet and greet, Q&A. It's all going to be there. Probably hang out a little bit after. I've heard rumors that Dusty Evely is going to be showing up as well. So hopefully that ends up being the case, and should be really, really fun. Nonetheless, really excited to chat all things Packers tomorrow. Packers seem to take traits over production. That is not new news. And that is very much in the Packers way, going back to Ron Wolf, which is sitting on my shelf over there. Again, They want traits plus production. All right. They want that, but they are looking at what the best player is going to be in the long term. You may not like the philosophy. That is their philosophy. They have adopted it. They live in it. They breathe it. And they are not going to be changing anytime soon. And you got very loud and clear from Goody in his press conference yesterday that that's still very, very much what they believe in. What position would you be worried about if we haven't got it by round 4? There's not any that I'm worried about. I'll be disappointed if they don't get a pass rusher in the first 4 rounds, or that you go into the first 4 rounds without getting any sort of pass rush player whatsoever. That I would be most disappointed by that. But there's not anything that I'm like, oh my God, how are they going to survive? I think they've got good players. They're still the off season's not over, but pass rush would definitely be the one I'd be most disappointed by. I heard Goody likes Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle out of Maryland, projected 3rd or 4th guy. Have you seen his tape? I've not watched him. Also, if you heard Goody likes him, it probably means that Goody does not like him. They're very tight-lipped, and usually when you hear, yep, Green Bay's on this guy, they are almost never on that guy. Not always, but just be cautious this time of year. But I do have him on my list of players. Have him on my board here, I believe. Yeah, he's on my 4th to 7th round list for my big board. So I'm going to try to get through as many of those guys as I can over the course of the next couple of days. So hopefully I can watch some Jordan Phillips prior to this week, or the draft, I should say. All right. Rob confirmed your thoughts that Michael Williams would be the Packers' preferred pass rusher. Oh, did he say something like that? Yeah, I very much believe that to be the case. I followed Goody and the Packers. Shamar Stewart could easily be the case as well. Like, I wouldn't be stunned by that. But like I said all along, if Mike Hill's there at 23, I expect that they will sprint that card to the podium. I'd be interested to hear what Rob said, though. I'm weird in that I've never really looked at prospects or learned of players outside of watching college football until I learned of this podcast. That way I'm not too disappointed with non-picks. Ben, do what you got to do. Being a fan of prospects going into a Packers draft is a foolhardy way of going about life. You're usually going to be disappointed more often than not, but we do it nonetheless. We have fun with it no matter what. And I'm still excited regardless of who they take. Can you please do an episode of the past 5 years of the division and what you predict the next 5 years of the division to look like? Probably not, Daryl, if I'm being honest. I don't mean to be a jerk, but I don't know. It's a possibility. I think trying to predict what the division's going to look like in 5 years, like trying to predict what the Packers are going to look like 2 years from now, feels like a fool's errand. I think we can all kind of see what the divisions look like over the past 5 years, but I can understand the exercise. I can understand why you want to do it. I don't know of all the things that I want to get to this offseason. I don't know that's going to go necessarily to the top of my list, but I will put it on my list of things to at least consider as time goes on. I'll do that, at least that for you. We don't figure it out and if we don't figure it out and are more competitive next season, trade. Oh, I didn't know where this was going. If this was a Bucs thing. Trade Giannis, I will be very tempted to leave Bucs fandom. Yeah, let's just hope let's just see what they do in this game first. Down 11 with 3 minutes left, but you could be getting into tear down territory very, very soon. Is Jack Moak? No, he's not I'm assuming you mean Christian Watson. He's more possession, outside, inside, but I think you can win on all 3 levels. You can certainly see him get enough deep balls down the field as well. I think a little bit more kind of schemed up than, again, a Christian Watson type, but he can win to all 3 levels. I think he's a good route runner, good possession guy. You can run after the catch. You can get him into the short and intermediate stuff as well. So I just think he can do a little bit of everything, which I love. Yeah, and again, I think if you watch him, he's fast enough. I don't have concerns about his long speed at all. He plays fast. So that's, I think, the big thing for me. Yeah, so I think he would still be somebody that would be potentially on their board. I love him, so they probably won't take him. All right. I did find a Johnny White who was a running back in 2012. Nope, this would have to be, again, like 96, 90, 94, 95, 96, 97, somewhere in that range. And maybe it wasn't a running back. I could be wrong on that too. It was just somebody named White that was on the Packers in training camp of that year. Again, I don't even know that there would be record of. He was in camp, I don't think, for long at all. Who do you fear the Bears end up drafting at the 10th spot? Definitely don't want Genty. I don't know that's, like, again, the greatest use of, like, draft resources ever, but my 2 fears would be Genty, just because I just want to enjoy Genty. I don't want another Adrian Peterson where I can't enjoy him, another Randy Moss, another Justin Jefferson where I can't enjoy him, Barry Sanders. Thankfully, the Bears have had very few of those players, but I just don't want players that I can't enjoy because they play against Green Bay twice a year and are in the division. So I don't want Genty to be that guy, and I don't want them to trade up for Abdul Carter either. Those are my two hopes for Chicago. All right. Stuart Higgins, best available corner. That's what I'm calling. Be a good draft. Be a very good draft. Catching the tail end live. Can't wait to go back and watch the rest. Thanks for taking the time again, Andy. Will, you are more than welcome. I'm going to take a drink before I can't lose my voice, so I got to be careful here. All right. If the Bears get Genty, I actually might be worried as a Packers fan. I think they're going to take a step. I still expect them to Bears everything up in some way. They're very good at Bearsing things up. Fingers crossed. Hoping the Raiders take Genty before I think Genty's going to go in the top 5. There's some buzz lately to Jacksonville at 4 or 5, wherever they are. I think maybe it's 5, right? Jaguars at 5. And then, Raiders at 6 is another possibility. I don't think he gets to 10 for Chicago. Because Ted McMillan and Jack Besh ran at pro days, some people would say because of hand time, there would be a 0.15 seconds slower at 4.7 speed. Would that disco? Tet and Beck ran only at pro days, and man, you're doing some like Steiner math on me here. If both are over 4.7 combine time, would the Packers say no? And thoughts? Yeah, they would probably be off Green Bay's board in the first couple rounds if they ran 4.7 40s at wide receiver. So I think that would be something Green Bay really attacked unless they had GPS data that was very much different than that. Maybe I'm misunderstanding your question, but if I'm understanding it, yes, a 4.7 40 would, I think, probably take them off of Green Bay's board in the first and second rounds. Where do you think Cam Ward would have gone in the last year's draft compared to the other quarterbacks? It's a really fun question. Oh, that's not going to help me at all. Give me 1 second here. Ooh, this I can use. All right, 2024. All right, so I would have had Caleb ahead of him. I would have had Drake May ahead of him. And then I think you get into the conversation. I think he would have been somewhere 3 through 5. I liked McCarthy and Daniels next at 3 and 4. I'm just gonna have to live with the fact that I had Daniels at 4, but I had Daniels as the 5th graded player in the draft. It just so happened I had him as the 4th quarterback last year, but I had Daniels at 5, McCarthy at 4. I would have probably put Ward. Probably would have put Ward at 3. I think I would have went Williams, May, Ward, McCarthy, Daniels. And again, I'm just going to have to live with the fact I was wrong on Daniels. And then I would have had Penix, and then I would have had Nix after that. I'm mad at myself, and this is where you can just get in your head on things. When I watched both Penix and Nix, I really liked both of them. And my initial thought on both was, why are these not being talked about as like early to mid-round, first-round picks? And then like you see everyone's like, yeah, they're like second, third-round guys, and then you start like overthinking it. And I think I ended up with like late first-round or early second-round picks on both of them. And then of course they both go in the top 11. Nix looked really good. Penix was starting by the end of the year, and I just got to trust my gut on that. That's why I try to avoid as much draft talk as possible, because I want to trust my own instincts and not what other people are potentially saying. So when I first watched Nix and Penix, I liked both of them quite a bit, and then dropped myself to the consensus like an idiot. But I would have probably done Williams, May, and then Cam Ward, then McCarthy, then Daniels, then Penix, then Nix, in that order. Tettenbach ran only at Pro Day and some. Oh yeah, we went over that. Sorry about that. Was in and out, so I missed that part of the conversation. We'll go back. Perfect. No worries at all, Ben. You are more than forgiven. I should be at Heritage Park tomorrow too. Can't wait, Peter. Hope to see you there as well. Super excited. Tom Coughlin suggested, without making comments about Green Bay and the Pat McAfee show, that the Giants have always been a BPA draft and develop team. At least we can all say we're in a better position as Green Bay fans. Very, very much so. Thanks for the time you take for us Packer enthusiasts. Craig, thank you for taking the time to put up with me as a Packer enthusiast. I appreciate that more than you know. Thanks for all your coverage this week. You do an amazing job. Do we take offense or defense in the first round? I would bet heavily on defense. Edge, defensive tackle, corner. I would put those as the top 3. Here's the thing, right? Let's think about this logically. If it is, they're not going to take a quarterback. They're not going to take a running back. They're not going to take a tight end. I don't think they're going to take an interior offensive lineman. They're not going to take a linebacker. They're not going to take a safety. That literally leaves you with wide receiver, tackle, defensive lineman, edge, or corner. All right. Wide receiver, Travis Hunter is going to be gone. Tet, we feel like, is going to be gone. Golden's probably going to be gone. You're literally left probably with Igbuka or bust at wide receiver. He's probably the only wide receiver that could be available at 23 that they would potentially take. Maybe if they move down Jaden Higgins, end of round 1, I think that's aggressive, but maybe Jaden Higgins, but you're probably Igbuka or bust at wide receiver. Campbell and Membu are going to be gone at tackle. There's word that Banks is going to be gone at tackle. Maybe Connerly Jr. would be in the conversation. I think he should. I love Connerly Jr. Not for the Packers, but I think he should be in that, 25-ish range. But you're probably looking at Josh Simmons or bust at offensive tackle. Like, if you told me they took an offensive player in round 1, I think you can probably get pretty easily to like Igbuka, Simmons, or bust. I don't know who else you would be. Again, Connerly might be the 3rd player on that list. And then I really don't know who else. So meanwhile, Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, Landon Jackson, Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson, Trey Amos, amongst others, there's at least 8 defensive players that are well within the realm of possibility around pick 23. And I think I can only get to 2 offensive players, Igbuka and Simmons. Crazier things have happened. Different players could fall. Who the hell knows? But I would heavily, heavily bet defense for Green Bay in round 1. So by that, go out and definitely bet offense. All right. Mike, non-football question, Andy. Did you have time to watch WrestleMania? What did you think of it? If you did, I did. It was on. And while I was like, it was honestly like perfect. I was watching a lot of tape throughout the entirety of both, had it on in the background. Like, you would just sort of like something would happen. You'd be like, oh yeah, good. Loved the opener on Sunday. Bianca, huge fan of Bianca. Bianca was phenomenal in that match. Io was fantastic. And why can't I remember who? Oh, of course, Rhea, also phenomenal. Like, that match of the weekend for sure. Absolutely loved it. I thought Sunday was a better show up until the end than Saturday by far. I thought Saturday was fine. I thought the main event was predictable. That was definitely the outcome that I saw coming. And I thought they slow played it so much that you could really see what was coming in the main on Saturday. But it was a fine, fun, mostly entertaining day of wrestling that it was fine. Sunday, I really, really liked. And then, obviously the big match was Cena Rhodes, and holy crap, did they flub that to a very high degree. I don't know what the hell that was supposed to be. That was ugly, bad decision-making, bad booking, bad wrestling, bad everything. It was just an absolute train wreck. So really sour note to end the night, but I was very, very happy with the opening match. And I thought Bianca, Rhea, and Io absolutely killed it. Was it like a 12-minute match? And it felt like 30 minutes just because it was so action-packed for those 12 minutes. That was peak wrestling. Loved it a lot. I thought the 2 days overall, per usual, probably could have been, been condensed into one day, made it better. Just had the best matches on, and they got to do something to fix that main event, no matter what. But that was a very awful way to end it. I always had Daniels, Knicks, Penix as the best quarterbacks in the draft. There were some of the others. I hate LSU though, so that was not happy for me to admit. Yeah, Daniels, I don't know. That was one like almost like Tet this year that I couldn't quite get there. I knew the upside. I had some concerns about just his style of play. But again, one I'm just going to have to own and learn from. That's the big thing. Like, if you don't admit your mistakes, you don't learn from them. So you have to definitely really make sure that you go back and figure out why you missed on a player like that. And Daniels was just one that what did I say? 4th or 5th on my overall big board. So like, I'm not taking this massive L here of like, oh my God, what were you possibly thinking? Yeah, I had him 5th overall last year. So again, it's not like I had him like 32nd or something like this guy's going to suck. He still ended up 5th on my board, but ended up at 4th at quarterback. And clearly that was not good enough. I'm not as high on Igbuka. He's a solid player. Don't get me wrong. He just doesn't really move the needle for me as far as what Green Bay doesn't have in the room. I agree with that, Ben. Good player. No issue with it, but probably think that there's better routes to go. What are your thoughts on the corner from Florida State, Thomas? He was getting round 2 buzz early. Haven't heard from him since. Yeah, I think there's still some round 2 buzz. I think there's even round 1 buzz. Good fit when the defense. Let me just pull up my notes really quick here. Really good fit for the defense. Anything round 1 would be crazy high for him, for me. I liked him. I didn't love him. Where the hell am I? Oh, I'm still in 2024. That's why. Where is Azariah Thomas? There he is. So not a good tackler. Doesn't bring much physicality. Chaotic at the catch point. It kind of works, but it's awkward and it's going to draw some flags from time to time. Doesn't have an explosive or standout trait on film. He's athletic enough, don't get me wrong, but I don't think there's anything explosive or special when I watch him on tape. The Notre Dame game was a proof of concept game for me. If you want to go and watch his Notre Dame game, I felt like that's, if you get that, if that's the player that you get moving forward, you get a really, really good player. So that is, sometimes that's all you need to see is like, all right, I see the vision. And the Notre Dame game provided me the vision for Azariah Thomas. Crossers were able to run away from him a little bit too easily. The intangibles were apparent. Were there. Like you could see like the little things that he did on tape. And I think Dane Brugler wrote, sources rave about his intelligence and character. I think he needs a lot of technique work, but I think he's 20 years old, if memory serves, either 20 or 21. He's very young. Talent is there. If they got him in the second, I would be totally cool with it. I could easily see them taking him in the second, but I do think he's going to need a little bit of time and a little bit of work, but definitely some upside there. Trans Rights, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Sent you a super chat earlier too. Thanks for everything you do. All right, I'll make sure I go back and double check that, Mike, for sure. Make sure I got to everything. Late round quarterback I'm interested in is Cook. I'll try to take a look at him, Peter, see if I can watch him before we get to the draft. You could have the board fall your way. What do you think is the biggest need in the first couple of rounds? Pass rush. Pass rush, pass rush. Give me as much. To me, elite teams have a great quarterback and a great pass rush. You can build teams in a variety of different ways and have strengths and weaknesses in different areas. The best of the best have a great quarterback and a great pass rush. We don't know yet if Jordan's going to get to that great/elite status. I still think he can. I think he can be really, really good at worst. Keep working to get that elite pass rush. Those are the best teams. Andy, starting tomorrow, you have to wear green and gold. Go Pack Go. I'll see what I can do. You guys know me. I like being comfortable. Comfortable is most important to me. I'm always going to have the stuff in the background. Also, if anyone would like to challenge me on my ability to carry the G and support the Packers, well, they are welcome to start a 365-day-a-year podcast and be talking about the Packers for over 2,000 days straight, or at least putting out a podcast that's talked about the Packers for over 2,000 days straight. So I am very comfortable with my Packers card. And if I don't always wear green and gold, that's okay. It is bleeding all through me, and I think everyone knows that. So I get what you mean. I'm sure I'll have some Packers stuff on the next couple of days, but at some point, I'm going to lean towards comfortability more than anything, especially when I'm going to be live on chat for like 1 billion hours over the course of the next few days. Do you think the offense or defense is a safer bet to finish top 10 at the end of the season? You know what? Smiling Beagle, I'm going to say both. I'm going to say both finish easily in the top 10 next year. 20, super young for Azariah Thomas. But have you ever drank a Carry the G, Andy? I have. Very good beer. Highly recommend. Well done by Cheesehead TV and Company and Stillmank. All right. Mike Witt. All right. Was it this one? I think it was this one I missed. Tankathon mock draft has us drafting Harmon in round 1 and Sawyer in round 2. Your thoughts on if that happens? Love Harmon in round 1. Sawyer's interesting. Let me pull up my notes on him really quick. I don't think he's like a perfect Packers type. Where do I have him here? I might need to move Azariah Thomas a little bit up my board, by the way, now that I'm just kind of thinking about it. Where the frick is Jack Sawyer? Why can I not find him? There he is. So I had him below Scorton, had him below Landon Jackson, had him below James Pierce, below JPT, have him, yeah, kind of above Jordan Birch and kind of that next tier of defensive ends. But I didn't think you could bend the edge very well, a little bit tight-hipped, straight line speed, but with good power, physical hands to jar offensive linemen, cannot change direction super well, doesn't have a diverse move set. Outside rush with a rip is kind of his go-to move, sets the edge well, good size strength, straight line speed seems more than fine, closes the back door on run plays, which I love, does a great job of getting hands up to bat down passes, really good effort, played his best football at the end of the year and found ways to consistently make an impact. Size, strength, speed will play, but the pass rush plan and lack of bend will affect him. So like him, would have no issue with him. Probably I would love him in round 3. Round 2, I think there's going to be better guys there, but he's a good player. He's a good player. No question about it. Let's see. True Pack-A-Day fans know that you're good. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate that. And one doesn't need to have a cheesehead to count. Very, very true. Not a fan of Sawyer, third round guy for me. Yeah, like I think third round is very fair for him. He'll probably go second round would be my guess, but I could easily see him going early to mid third. And if Green Bay got him there, that would be a very good spot to get him. Would have no issue with that. All right, friends, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to painfully watch the end of this Bucks game, watch some tape. Got an episode still to record tonight. Get a Ross Uglum episode up here at some point. So yeah, we've got a lot of different things to do, but it should be fun. Looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate you a ton. We've got no live Q&As tomorrow. I'll be live in person again, Hagemeister Park. If you want the Q&A, you're going to have to come to Green Bay and come see me in person tomorrow. Then we'll do a live Q&A during the day on Thursday, live draft party Thursday night, live Q&A on Friday, live draft party Friday night, live draft party Saturday morning into early afternoon. We'll probably cut out around end of the fourth round. And then later that night, just going to be recording a podcast, and then we'll get to our more live stuff. Oh, sorry. Later that night on Saturday, I'm going to be doing the live event at Titletown Brewery in Green Bay. So then Sunday, I don't think I'm going to do a live. Maybe I'll pop in for a little bit on something, but that's kind of the plan as of now. Thanks so much again for all the support. You guys are the best. I'll see you all very soon. Hope to see some of you guys tomorrow over at Hagemeister Park, 7 to 9. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.